Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty exciting, the Empyrean Series
Ah, yes.
by Rebecca Yarros. So just picture, dragons ruling the skies, epic battles, a romance that just pulls you in.
And that's exactly what we're going to be looking at. We have this audio excerpt
Hmm.
that really takes us into this world.
Right.
And what we really want to do today is help you listening understand what makes this series tick.
Yeah.
Who's the main character? What kind of problems are they up against? And what are some of the big ideas that we see?
Yeah, so think of this as like a cheat sheet to
Exactly.
get the heart of the Empyrean Series without having to, trek through the whole thing yourself.
Exactly.
So let's unpack it.
Right.
Let's start with our main character, Violet Sorrengail.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, she is not your typical fantasy hero.
No, not at all. And I think what's really interesting is the contrast that we get immediately.
Right.
Dropped right into this world of Basgiath War College, which is basically a dragon rider boot camp.
Yeah.
And failure there means death.
It's pretty intense.
It's brutal.
And Violet wasn't even meant to be there.
No.
She was on track, for the scribe quadrant, like books history, a nice quiet life. And then suddenly,
Yeah.
her mom, General Sorrengail, is like, nope, you're going to the rider's quadrant.
Yeah. So talk about a big career change, right?
It's huge, right. And that instantly puts her, in this incredibly difficult position.
And I think if we're thinking about why people are so drawn to this series,
Yeah.
it's that immediate external pressure.
Yeah.
She's being pushed into this situation she never imagined.
Right.
And you just wonder, how on earth is she going to survive?
Exactly. And it seems like everything is against her right from the start.
Totally.
I mean, we learn that she has these fragile bones. So physically, she's not as strong as the other, people she's training with. And it almost feels like everyone is expecting her to fail.
They're just waiting for it. Yeah.
Or not even survive the initial training.
Exactly.
So that brings up this really interesting point about what we even consider strength. Because the series plays with our expectations right away.
It does.
Because yes, physical power is super important at Basgiath.
Yeah.
But that's not really where Violet's strength lies.
Exactly.
Right? The excerpt highlights her intelligence, her strategy, and this just sheer determination.
Yes.
And for you listening, I think it's just such a good reminder that strength isn't just about being physically strong, right? Sometimes it's that quiet power of your intellect and that resilience that can be so powerful.
Totally.
It makes you kind of rethink what it even means to be strong.
Yeah. And this ties in really well with the dragon bonding, which is obviously a huge part of the series.
Absolutely.
It's not just a case of human meets dragon and they become friends.
Right.
The dragons actually choose their riders.
They do.
And if they reject someone, well, the excerpt doesn't sugarcoat it. It can be fatal.
Yeah. And that's like adding this whole other layer of intensity, right? Like you've got these powerful creatures literally holding your life in their claws. And then we meet Tairn, who is this incredibly strong dragon, but, not exactly the happiest dragon out there.
Yeah.
And he chooses Violet.
Right.
The one everyone thinks is going to fail first.
Yeah. What's so interesting there, and maybe this is part of the reason why this series is so popular,
Yeah.
is because it's unexpected. Dragons aren't usually drawn to people who appear physically weak.
Right.
So Tairn seeing something in her that other people don't is a pretty powerful message.
Yeah.
In fact, the excerpt even calls it this great metaphor for life.
Yeah.
Like you can think about it in terms of someone maybe being overlooked for a job because they don't have the right experience on paper.
Right.
But they have some hidden talent that makes them perfect for it.
Exactly. How often do we do that? Underestimate ourselves or other people based on just what we see on the surface.
All the time, I think.
Right. Or these traditional ideas of what success should look like.
Yeah.
I mean, Violet and Tairn's bond really challenges that. It makes you think about those times where maybe you've been underestimated, right?
Totally. And let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the romance.
Oh, yes.
Because we can't forget about Xaden Ryerson, brooding a bit dangerous.
Right.
He's this wing leader with a mysterious past.
Yeah.
He's the kind of character that just jumps off the page, or in this case, out of the speakers.
Yeah. And they have this classic enemies to lovers setup.
Did you?
There's that immediate suspicion, like they should be on opposite sides.
Yeah.
And the excerpt even says that he has every reason to want her dead.
Yeah.
Which really ramps up the tension.
It does.
Why do you think that kind of dynamic is so interesting to people?
I think if we look at why that tension is so effective in storytelling,
Yeah.
is because it creates this automatic conflict
Right.
and so much space for the characters to grow.
Right.
Their relationship. It's described as slow-burning high tension,
Yeah.
which forces both Violet and Xaden to really examine their own beliefs and change.
Not easy. It's not an easy romance, and that often makes it more engaging.
Right. It appeals to that part of us that likes a little, complexity in a relationship.
Absolutely.
It's not just about instant connection.
Yeah.
It's about how these two people challenge each other and actually change each other under all this pressure.
Exactly.
And the excerpt also gives us this great example of those high stakes with the gauntlet.
Yes, the gauntlet is like a perfect way to show you just how dangerous life is for these students.
It is.
It's this obstacle course designed to really push them to their absolute limits.
Yeah.
And for Violet, especially with her, physical disadvantages,
Yeah.
it seems almost impossible.
It does.
Everyone is probably thinking she needs to rely on brute strength,
Right.
which she clearly doesn't have.
But what does she do?
Exactly.
She uses her mind, her agility, and this strategic approach to get through this crazy, dangerous challenge.
And this scene really highlights one of the big messages of the series, right?
It does. It's not always about overpowering something with just sheer force.
Right.
Sometimes the smarter approach is to outthink the problem.
Yeah.
The excerpt mentions that there's this powerful lesson here that adaptability and intelligence can often outmatch raw strength.
And that's something that applies to so much more than just, dragon riders, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, think about it for yourself. When you're facing a tough challenge, do you just try to power through it, or do you actually start and think about a better way to do it?
Exactly. And that leads us to, I think, the core appeal of the Empyrean series.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the dragons are cool. The romance is great.
Right.
But it's really the themes underneath that make it stand out.
Totally. The excerpt really focuses on defying expectations and resilience in the face of adversity. I mean, Violet is constantly being told she can't do something, she won't succeed, she's not strong enough.
Right.
But she always finds a way to overcome those limitations.
And I think if we bring it back to you listening, so many people can relate to feeling like things are stacked against them.
Yeah.
Or that they don't fit in the box that people try to put them in.
Right.
So Violet's story is really inspiring.
It is.
It's all about that inner strength and not giving up.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Empyrean series, we want to leave you with something to really think about.
Okay.
The excerpt asks this question: what's your dragon?
Ooh, I like that.
And they don't mean a literal dragon, although that would be cool.
It would.
But think about it metaphorically.
Yeah.
What's that challenge in your life that feels impossible to overcome?
That feels massive, right?
Right now, think about Violet at Basgiath.
Okay.
How can you approach your own dragon, not with just force, but with that strategy, intelligence, and resilience that she has?
Exactly. It's about using your own unique strengths, even if they're not the typical ones that people expect.
Right. And if this has piqued your interest, the excerpt definitely recommends checking out Fourth Wing to really get into this world.
Yes. And it also mentions that there's more to come in the series.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, there's more to discover in the Empyrean.
So much to explore. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've gained some really good insights into this amazing series.
Yes.
And until next time, keep exploring.